Hello everyone, and thanks very much for all the support with my videos. Today I want to speak about the leaders debate that was held on RTE last night. There was 10 political leaders invited. Of course, all of the status quo were there and very much the political establishment. Katie Hannon, the host, was flanked on either side by her government's partners who have recently awarded the €725 million over the next 3 years to RTE, and coincidentally Harris and Martin were standing side by side, and on the other side was O'Gorman. So it was like a grand coalition, and flanked on other sides by able and willing mudguards for future coalitions such as Social Democrats and Labour. It's just really fascinating to see the way this debate was completely and utterly contrived. And it was really poor in huge parts that I watched because he didn't deal with the underlying issues in Irish society. The lack of democracy, the lack of power, the huge implications of all the crises perpetuated by the neoliberal policies through housing, health care. We've seen it with the immigration disaster as well. And there's been too many people who were there last night who were fully willing and able to prop up the establishment's line on immigration in particular. It took over 2.5 hours, or 2 hours actually, before immigration was mentioned, which is a huge issue, we all know. But of course, the political establishment wouldn't like you to believe it is a big issue. But this is all down to the huge neoliberal policies, which has created huge crises for so many people in Irish society. So many are in poverty, 1 in 5 children are in deprivation. We have record homeless figures, record people on health waiting lists. We have a disastrous education system and people waiting on disability care and special needs assessment, and many more crises that I'm facing every single day talking to people all around the Dublin Bay South constituency, people I know and fully understand their struggles, and this needs to dramatically and drastically change for the better. But of course, this wasn't addressed. As I said, the power and the nexus of control wasn't addressed in terms of the European Union power as well. And it was also revealing to see Simon Harris being under pressure as well last night, and pretty tetchy in a couple of parts. One issue he took issue with was the fact that he signed off as Minister for Health for the National Children's Hospital, which is a huge scandal in Ireland. It's currently at about €2.5 billion. It's due to open at the end of next year, but maybe we'll see it by 2045 at this rate. And Harris, of course, said he didn't sign off on it. As Minister for Health, he did sign off on it, but he said he brought it to the government and the government agreed on it. Harris, a complete and utter bluffer and a liar, and caught out last night. And also on housing, it was the same sort of debate that we've come to expect. We'll build 20,000 houses. The next party was 30,000, 40,000, all this type of nonsense. It needs to start from the ground up, and we need to see a home as a social good, especially when you consider up to 40 people have died in the streets of Dublin. I visited so many and supported so many people in city council, for instance, flat complexes all around Dublin City, in deplorable state, without basic facilities for so many of that great community all around the Dublin Bay South area. And the same as working class communities up and down the country also as well have been neglected by these policies. But of course they wouldn't address any of those crises. They kept talking about the so-called affordable housing, whatever that means. If we can try and imagine what affordable really means, we'd love to see it. But again, it's just more grandstanding by the political establishment, and very little on basic renters' rights in terms of stopping evictions and giving security of tenure for renters wasn't mentioned whatsoever. But immigration I want to talk about in terms of the debate, and it was important because they didn't come in till over 2 hours into this debate, very late, and they spoke about it, which was just, again, they're trying to put it to the back of the agenda when it is a big issue because of the pressures on working class communities due to lack of resources and overstretched public and social services that we all see every single day in our communities up and down the country. They never spoke about the work permits, which I revealed last week and spoke about last week, and the fact that so many people are benefiting from the work permit system. Big employers are benefiting, and again, this is what it's all about. When IBEC were lobbying against the increase to the minimum wage, Central Bank was also pushing reports out for more workers to come in, and I spoke in my previous video in the context of the work permit scheme that Micheál Martin has pushed forward, this labour needs assessment, which is part of the Fianna Fáil manifesto, which states that they're looking for retail workers, hospitality, care and construction. So again, driving down wages, while so many of people here in Ireland and young people are emigrating because they can't see a future, because they can't afford anywhere to live and they don't have a dignified existence. But again, the unions are completely silent on these issues rather than addressing the underlying crises, and just so many of these parties are just lackeys for the neoliberal establishment, which is more privatisation and more working for the interests of the big corporations. Now, a couple of the parties yesterday spoke about, Fianna Fáil were speaking about this so-called Department of Home Affairs / Domestic Affairs. You really couldn't make it up with Fianna Fáil. They're the ones who've signed up to the EU Migration Pact, but a lot of the other parties, Fine Gael, the Green Party and many more, have signed up to the EU Migration Pact. So it's a complete and utter con job, so don't fall for it, on their nonsense around immigration. They say they're looking to get tough on this, which is absolutely just ridiculous. And they also said that they would be looking at increasing population over the next period of time. So what is it, Micheál Martin, the man who famously said sovereignty was a backward looking idea? He's no interest in Irish sovereignty. He just is a lapdog for his masters in Brussels. The same as the opposition parties who were there as well. All their leaders last night, the Social Democrat leader, he was standing in for Holly Cairns, who was not able to come, but Cian O'Callaghan spoke, and he said because of the skill shortages, and he said many work on low pay. Well, hello Cian, well done for waking up. Many work on low pay, but he didn't make the argument that against it. He was saying our economy wouldn't function without it. So again, they're supporting the importation of cheap labour. Ireland's a low-wage economy. 1 in 5 workers are in low pay. Many people are struggling day to day. This morning I visited a group of people in Rathmines that were queuing at a food bank. Huge queues. It's absolutely just disgraceful. But this is what's really going on. And then you have the Social Democrats, really, they should be called, really with their heads in the clouds and looking like able lackeys for the government parties. And the other opposition wasn't much better either. So-called opposition. Green Party again, Roger O'Gorman, Minister for Disintegration. The less said the better about him, who helped implode this crisis. And many more were speaking about that, supporting the status quo and supporting the neoliberal agenda where it's all about cheap labour. And even Sinn Féin's leader, Mary Lou McDonald, completely out of touch with the whole crisis, said immigration and migrant labour wasn't a problem. Well, it is a big issue in terms of cheap labour. But of course, Mary Lou McDonald wouldn't argue to that, because they've been fluffing around this issue for so long, and they're completely all at sea around what's going on in terms of Irish sovereignty and in terms of cheap labour and the huge commercial property owners making fortunes in Ireland as well. But again, they've showed their true colours as full part of the establishment. And she said it was the international protection was the problem. Now, they just don't get it. The less said the better, with Sinn Féin and the so-called opposition around this as well. We need a radical shift in Ireland, I believe. I think the politicians have showed their true colours. They're completely out of touch with what's really going on. The party political system in Ireland is just self-serving. They serve their interests of themselves, their own power and privilege, rather than serving the interests of the people. And democracy has to start from the ground up in all of our communities, in around Dublin Bay South that I'm standing for, and in around Ireland as well. So it's critically important that we bring our voices to the forefront over the next period of time. And Friday, November 29th, vote Peter Judy number 1 for Dublin Bay South constituency, who's going to stand up for the interests of ordinary people and stand up for the interests of people in our great community and in our great country. So many people have struggled over the years for our basic rights, for our basic independence and for our sovereignty, which this political establishment are trying to erode every single day. So don't fall for their spin, don't fall for any of their nonsense, see the truth for what it is. So thanks for all the support, and I'll see you all soon. Slán, bye bye.